Hi everybody, this is Shawna Odette from the Flying Cat Academy. Welcome to lesson number 28. This is a review lesson. Let's begin by setting up our table. You'll need the top 160 sight word list, the sight word study method instruction sheet, the student's card pack of sight words, some blank cards for introducing new sight words, a highlighter, some markers, and some pencils. For the short vowel drill, you'll need the teacher instruction sheet, for the student the keyword pictures, and the keyword sentence. Then we have the phonemic awareness drill. You'll need the teacher instruction sheet and the colored tiles for the student. For the visual and auditory drill, you'll have the teacher instruction sheet and the card pack on which the student is currently working. For the syllable card today, it's just like the lesson that we just had, where we're going to have one base and multiple prefixes. We're going to talk about the different meanings of these parts so the student has a deeper understanding of the word that's being created. And we'll remember that we're going to use the words in sentences. And we'll just move that base down, the prefixes, and the student will tap it and say it. We'll also have sounds like S, the sounds of S drill. S can sound like S, Z, or is. And there's only two ways to write it. We'll write it as an S or an ES. The student will take a card and tap it and say it. And they'll say, is it wins or win is? Wins. And how is the S sounding? Is it sounding like a S or a Z? If it's a motor on sound that's coming before that S, the N is a motor on, then we know that the S is going to make the motor on sound of S, which is Z. If we take another one here, let's try fix. We'll say, is it fix when we add the suffix, or is it fixes? Oh, it's fixes. So even though it sounds like IZ, we're still going to write it as ES. We want the student to be explaining their thinking as they're doing this. There'll be a few nonsense words, and those are going to be italicized. And remember that there's a lot provided here, a lot of different words, but you're keeping the eye on the time to know how many of those to actually use. Then we have the magnetic letter tile drill for reading and spelling. The cookie sheet goes with this one, and you'll have the magnetic letter tiles spread in a rainbow shape. You'll have the syllable pounding instruction sheet, the new phoneme grapheme kinesthetic discovery instruction sheet, which you have time to use that today because it is a review lesson, so you can make that decision. And then we'll have the sheets that go with the lesson, including the single word list, the story, and the sentences for the writing section of the lesson. So let's begin with the sight word study method. Student, you'll need your card pack for this one. Read through every word in your pack, and when you get one correct, you will put a check mark in the corner of its card. Then give your card pack to your teacher, and it's your teacher's turn to read. The teacher reads each word, and you write it down on your paper. When you get one correct, you will put a check mark in the other side of the card. When you're finished, have a discussion with your teacher about which of the words you feel is mastered. If one is mastered, you can remove it from the card pack. That puts some space into the pack now, so you can decide, do you have time to add a new sight word? Let's do the short vowel drill. Student, you can take out your keyword pictures and your keyword sentence for this one. You'll take 2 fingers and trace a shape, saying apple, and then underline it and say the sound ah. Eddie, eh. Do it as many times as your teacher deems necessary, with a maximum of 5 there. And then you'll say the keyword sentence, stretching out the vowel sounds as you do it. Do the phonemic awareness drill. Student, you're going to need your colored tiles for this one. I'd like you to form the word mat. Can you say the word mat? I might say, hey kids, let's all come and sit on the mat. Okay, now I'd like you to build that word with your colored tiles. Tap it and say it. Okay, do you have 3 tiles down? If you do, that's right. Take a new color and call it S. Put the S right before the T in mat. What's your new word? Tap it and say it. Did you get mast, like the mast of a ship? If you did, that's correct. Now find the in mast. Change the into a What's your new word? Tap it and say it. Did you get rast? I don't think that's a word on its own, but it's part of a word. If you did, that's correct. Let's turn it into a word that you will recognize. Find the a in rast and change the a into an What's your new word? Tap it and say it. Did you get rust? If you did, that's correct. We might say the car has some rust on it. Okay, now let's add a t to the front of rust. What's your new word? Tap it and say it. Did you get trust? If you did, that's correct. Now I wonder, if you look at the word that you have down there, the colors, is there a same color at the beginning and the end? Because there's a t at the end of trust and a t at the end. So beginning and end are the same sound, so you should have the same color. Okay, great job. If your teacher wants, there's some other words provided that you can do more phonemic awareness, or if not, let's just move on and you can put your tiles away. So now you're going to take out your card pack, and this will be the visual drill. So the teacher flashes the card and the student says the sound on the card. So this one, student is, did you say squa? And we're going to be careful when we're doing this. So we're always thinking, if I flash this one and you say puh, that would be incorrect. We want to take that off. So we're going to say p and just have it pop. Okay, teacher, you can flash about 6 to 8 cards and then come back to me. We'll do the auditory drill, and we'll be using the same card pack for this one, the same one that we use for the visual drill. The teacher says the sound. So in this case, I'll say kst. Student, can you repeat that sound? Okay, now write down the symbols that go with kst, and then underline it and say the sound again. Then let's check your work. Did you get x as an X and t as a T? If you did, that's correct. Teacher, do this for about 6 to 8 flashcards and then come back to me. It's time for the syllable card drill. Student, your teacher has the drill set up on the table for you, and it'll be just like it was in lesson number 27, where we just have one base and then multiple prefixes. Do you remember what a base is? If you do, tell your teacher. Did you say that it's the syllable that holds the main meaning of the word? If you did, that's right. So in this case, we're going to look at this base. Can you tap that and say that? That base is tend. And tend is a word on its own. I can tend the sheep if I'm a shepherd. Tend has a meaning, and the meaning is to stretch. So if I add the prefix x onto tend, can you read that new word? Well, X has a meaning, and it means out. So when we think of what does extend mean, it means stretching out. And then imagine something that's extending. Maybe when you're blowing a balloon and the balloon is extending, it's stretching out. So as you do this drill, you're just going to take the base tend and add it together with the different prefixes and discuss the meanings. And then you'll really get a deep understanding of these new words. Let's do some syllable pounding. Student, you're going to stretch out your arm, and every time you hear a syllable, one of your fingers will shoot out. So your word is unfit. How many syllables? Did you pound out unfit and you get 2? If you did, that's correct. How about grab? How many syllables are there? Remember, you're listening for how many vowel sounds, because that'll tell you how many syllables. I only hear 1 in grab. I hear the ah sound as an apple. Ooh, okay, here's one. Unmagnetic. How many is in that one? Let's see. Unmagnetic. I got 4. Is that what you got? If you did, that's right. How about until? Did you get 2? If you did, that's correct. Okay, moving on. We're going to review the sounds of S. Do you remember that S can make three, well, there's two sounds of S, and then we have this other prefix because sometimes S can't do the job, so we have to add ES. So the two sounds, the motor on and motor off sound of S, can you tell your teacher those two sounds? So S can make, let's just show you S. S can make S when it's motor off, so when the vocal cords are not vibrating. And then if I just turn the motor on and I keep everything else exactly the same, S, Z, it turns into that Z sound of Z. And how do you know whether, when you add the suffix S, if it's going to sound like a S or a Z? Can you tell your teacher that little rule we have to know? Well, it's about what happens right before the suffix S. So if I just take this base that we were working with in the other drill, tend, I say, well, what's happening at the end of tend? Is the last sound a motor on or motor off? D, motor on. So the S will just keep its motor on, and that will be tends, and it has that Z sound. Okay, and when is it going to be ES that we add instead of S? If you remember, tell your teacher. Think of a word like fixes. Well, the word fix has one syllable, and if I want to make it fixes, all of a sudden it's fixes. It turned into two syllables. And that's why we have to add ES, because every syllable has to have a vowel in it. So the E is just there so that there can be a vowel. Because remember, a syllable is a word or part of a word with one vowel pattern. So right now you can do the drill. I'd like you to read the words, and then you add them, just pull them down to the S or the ES and say whether it's, so for example, for hen, you would say, pull it down to the S and say hens, and then take that word hen and put it under the S sounds like Z category. Let's do the magnetic letter tile drill for reading. You'll need your magnetic letter tiles that are spread in a rainbow shape for this one. Student, your sound is T. Can you repeat that sound? Now find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. Your next sound is R. Can you repeat that sound? Now find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. Your next sound is I. Can you repeat that sound? Now find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. The next sound is Can you repeat that sound? Find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. Your last sound is Z. Find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. Now tap it and say it. And think about the ending. Did you get trims? And did you spell the Z with an S? If you did, you got it correct. He trims the Christmas tree. Well done. Take your tiles and put them away, and let's try a new word. Okay. S is your first sound. Can you repeat that sound? Now find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. The next sound is one of those closed syllable exceptions that we worked on. Ink. What are the tiles that make that sound? Ink. Can you repeat that sound? Now find the correct tiles and pull them to the middle for ink. Okay, and the last sound is S. Can you repeat that sound? Find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. Now tap it and say it. Did you get sinks? The boat sinks? If you did, that's correct. Okay, put your tiles away, and you can take out your individual word list, and you can read down the words, and then move on to the story, and you can read the story. Time for the magnetic letter tile drill for spelling. Student, I'm going to tell you that you're going to work on the word taxes. Can you repeat that word? Okay, let's put it in a sentence. I might say, I do my taxes in the spring. What are taxes? If you know, tell your teacher. Have a quick discussion about that. Okay, now how many syllables are in taxes? Put your hand under, or you can pound it out if you prefer. I hear 2, taxes. So let's spell this syllable by syllable. What's the first syllable that we hear? Tax. Okay, so what's the first sound that you hear in tax? Now find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. What's the next sound that you hear in tax? Find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. And what's the last sound that you hear in tax? Find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. And now let's get the second syllable. Tax is. Is. Can you repeat that? Now what are the tiles that go with that suffix, is? Find the correct tiles and pull them to the middle. Okay, and teacher, you can check the work. And did you spell the suffix? Did you spell it T-A-X-E-S? Because even though it sounds like it should be I-Z, is, we're always going to write the suffix as E-S. Okay, you can put your tiles back and let's try a new word. Let's do a 2-syllable word again. Here's your new word. Inspect. Can you say that word? Inspect. Okay, let's put it in a sentence. I might say, I will inspect your work. Spect means to look, and in means within. So inspect is literally looked within. I can think of other words that have spect in it, like spectacles are glasses, because we're using them to look. So when you hear a word that has spect in it, we know that we are talking about looking. The private investigator inspects the room for clues. He's looking closely. Okay, what is the first syllable in inspect? Inspect, I hear 2 syllables. And the first one sounds like in. So what's the first sound that you hear in? Find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. And what's the next sound that you hear in? Okay, find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. Now let's work on the second syllable, spect. What's the first sound that you hear in spect? Find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. And what's the next sound that you hear in spect? Find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. What's the next sound in spect? Spect. Find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. Okay, what's the next sound in spect? Find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. And what's the last sound in spect? Find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. Now tap it and say it. And teacher can check your work. Great job. You're really beginning to spell some very big words now. Inspect. Put your tiles away, and we're going to tap some words and spell some words. You'll need a pencil and your lined paper for this one. I'll tell you that your word is mix. Can you repeat that word? I might say, I will mix up some paints to make a new color. Mix. Tap out the sounds, and then grab the whole word and say the whole word, and then write it down. Teacher can check the work. Now let's add a second syllable onto mix. Mixes. Tap out that second syllable is, and then write it down. Mixes. Did you spell it with M-I-X and then add an E-S? If you did, that's correct. Okay, how about this one? Hangs. For this one, you can trace on your body and say the sounds, or I'll let you choose tapping if you prefer that one, so your choice. So tap it or trace it and then grab the word, say the whole word, and then write it down. Hangs. He hangs his laundry. Hangs. Okay, your teacher's keeping an eye on the time, so if there's time, you can do a third word or a fourth. And if not, then let's move on to the sentences. So teacher, you can take out the 3 sentences, read them to the student, and have the student decide which of those sentences should be written. And after a sentence is written, make sure that you're using CHOPS student to check the work. Let's do a quick review before you go. We've been talking about the different sounds of S. When we have this grapheme, this letter S, it makes 2 sounds. Can you tell your teacher the 2 sounds that it can make? Did you say S and Z? And then we're going to remember that this is the same sound. The only difference is one's a motor on and one's a motor off. So my tongue's in the same position, my lips are in the same position to make this sound. And the only difference is that I'm turning the motor on for the Z sound. S, Z. Do you see how everything's the same? S, Z. And when do we use S and when do we use Z? How do we know what it's going to be? Can you tell your teacher? Did you say that you look at what happens right before the suffix? So if the letter before is a motor on, then this will sound like Z. If it's a motor off, like in the word pop, the last sound in pop is a P. So that's a motor off. So we know it'll be a S if we add the S. Pops. And then we have this one. How does this one sound? It usually sounds like is, I-Z, right? But we know we're always going to write it ES. That's the suffix. And when does this one get used? You know, think of the word foxes or matches, washes. This one gets used when a second syllable is added when we add the suffix. So you need to have a vowel because otherwise it's not a syllable. That's its purpose. Okay, and the other main concept that we've been working upon is bases, prefixes, and suffixes. So student, can you tell your teacher, let's just take, I don't know, let's grab a word like this one. If I have this and this, these are 2 different things. One's a base and one is at the end. So I'm adding it on. I'm wondering, is this one a base, prefix, or suffix? Can you tell your teacher? This one here, is that a base, prefix, or suffix? This one is a base because it's the main meaning of the word. And I'm going to add this one to the end. So is this one a prefix or a suffix? If we add one to the end, that one's a suffix. We can remember the difference between a prefix and a suffix because pre means before. So it goes before the word. Think of preview. Great job today. This is the end of lesson number 28. And this is Shawna Odette from the Flying Cat Academy.